sewing advisor on the Husqvarna Viking Brilliance 75Q will be like having your own little sewing instructor right at your fingertips, or like having me right here close by to tell you which stitch to choose based on which fabric you're working on. So let's go ahead and focus right here below the touch screen in this black area where it starts with ABC and 1, 2, 3. And I hope you'll try this next time you are doing some different types of fabrics, maybe something a little heavier and stretchier, or a little thicker or lightweight. You can tell the machine what fabric you're working on, tell it what sewing technique you want to do, and it's going to set up the stitch, the settings. It can even adjust length, width, and tension, along with foot pressure to make sure you get the best result. So which setting should you be on when you don't know where you're starting? You want to always be on B, woven medium. So if it just says woven medium, that's where you should be if you're not actually using this specifically. That's a nice middle of the road place for this. So what do we have here? You have pictures, A, B, and C are of a woven fabric. This one, the first one, a light, a medium, and a heavy. So see how C has a little bit bigger picture to the woven? But each time you touch it, if you don't remember what these symbols are, you can just look right here on your screen. So woven light, woven medium, and woven heavy. Let's keep going, and then we'll identify the techniques. D, E, and F is going to get you into a stretchy fabric category. From the light, E is medium, and F is heavy. So if you're thinking like something polar fleece, that's going to be like a stretch heavy. So you can actually tell the machine if you're working on something of a lightweight knit or something medium, and it will then pick the stitch. Did you see already it was starting to change stitches on us? I'm going to show you that next. Last one, G, is for leather. Leather or vinyl is another one that we use this last one for. And look, it even tells us to switch over to our non-stick foot letter H. Okay, so I'm going to go back to B because that's where I said we should start if we don't know what we're starting with. And let's go through the techniques. So once again, a quick way to get to a straight stitch is to select the first one because that is a seam. So you'll always get back to a straight stitch, stitch number 1, if you touch number 1 down here. Technique number 2, overcast. So I don't always remember the exact terms here, so I like to just touch them and I'll see what comes up. So for right now, number 2 is overcast. For the fabric that we currently have selected, woven medium, it is changing us over to this particular stitch and recommending foot J. Let's do something for fun before we go further. Let's pick fabric F. Now F didn't change the stitch much, but it did make it a little bit longer, and it changed us to a different foot. How about fabric D? It kind of took us back to where we were. It's also recommending a needle, stretch needle 75, so that's kind of cool to do too. Let's go back to woven medium and let's continue our techniques. So number 3 is going to be an overcast and seam. So there are different stitches based on different fabrics that you might pick. So see how we go across, you see the stitch changing oh so slightly. Oh, that one's a lot different for that particular fabric to get a seam and overcast best suited for that fabric. Okay, we're kind of back to normal. 4 is our basting stitch. 5 is a blind hem. 6 is our regular hem, which again changes based on our fabric we choose. And then the last one, that's obvious, a buttonhole. So some of our fancier buttonholes on different fabrics will be recommended, and it will even change feet for us as well. So again, look at all the different buttonholes. This is why you have different buttonholes in your machine for different fabrics. So usually that's one people don't know which one I should do, and this is a great place to use the sewing advisor. Okay, back to B. Let's do one more thing. Let's go back to straight stitch or a seam. And let's look at settings that change, and so you have an understanding of what is going on. Okay, so woven medium, let's look at your stitch length, 2.5. That's a nice normal stitch length. But if I say go to a heavier fabric, we've always talked about making your stitch length longer so the stitch doesn't get so teeny. Watch this. As I pick a woven heavy fabric, look at the stitch length. It has made it longer for you already. That's why this is so important to use when you are working with different fabrics, because it's going to do it for you. Let's go ahead and go to a lightweight fabric. And notice the stitch length shortens even more. So you can actually see, and then again, woven fabric or stretchy fabric, you're going to get into a stretch stitch of different settings. Okay, and then let's go into one more thing with this. Let's come up to the main menu and go into settings here. And one of the other things that you're going to notice is foot pressure is adjusted. So this is normally like 6.0 or 6.5. Foot pressure, when I've selected a stretchy fabric, is half of the normal setting. So that makes it so instead of the foot mashing down on that fabric and stretching it out while it's being sewn, now it's coming down gently and just barely touching it so that fabric isn't pulled while it's stitching. So you don't usually see that right on screen changing, but I wanted to show you that that is actually different. Let's just go ahead and go back to the woven medium. Let's just look at the settings. And in the zigzag tab, see it's back to 6.0. That's the full pressure, where when we are on the stretchy fabrics, that pressure will change. So this is pretty awesome that this is in the machine. But do remember that if you do use a fabric over here, you turn the machine off. On machines in the past, I'll have to double check, but it does remember the last fabric you were on, but not the technique. So it'll come back like just a regular straight stitch, but it'll still say stretch heavy, which would mean that that pressure is less. So that's why I always say go back to the woven medium if you're unsure or you're done using your different fabric. And then that way you know what you're kind of back to more normally set settings for the machine, including that pressure. So get used to using that. It is a pretty amazing one. Whenever I have my students do this, they're always like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that that's what all these funny symbols are. So try a few times on your own. Try out the Sewing Advisor next time you're working on something unique and have it pick the right stitch, and you'll be in the right ballpark from the very first stitch you take on that specialty fabric. Check out all of our videos on the Brilliance 75Q so you can learn everything about your beautiful machine and master every corner that it has.